Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to the Divine Union podcast. I know it's been 2 weeks since the last episode. It's been busy over here in the Nicola Navone house, Nicola Navone world. And I don't like to go dark after 2 weeks. So we are here. I've been thinking about, do I make the podcast once every 2 weeks instead of once a week? It's been just busy times as I gear up for my dual degree program at Loyola, which I'm absolutely so excited for, the dual masters in social work and in gender studies. So I'm really, really thrilled to deepen my work, deepen my expertise. As you know from my work, I'm really, really interested in gender and the construction of gender and the history of gender, and ultimately with the goal of, bridging the divide and having more, on a greater understanding of the historical forces that shape gender, is something I'm very excited to deepen in. And with social work, also just gaining even more tools for my tool belt when it comes to working with individuals and when it comes to working with couples. And, my background and training was in Tantra and somatics and a neuroscience based training program where I learned all about shadow work. So a lot of my approach is body based, but also with my background in communication, there's a lot of communication work. And what I'm really excited to deepen with school and social work is going even deeper into understanding those formative years of childhood and this even more of the science behind it. And I'm not a fan of, diagnosing people because I feel we're all human beings and we can often have behavioral challenges that need shifting from a behavior standpoint. I don't think anything's wrong with people, but it'll be really powerful to gain more an understanding of the current system that we're in, to deepen my approaches and different ways of navigating different kinds of challenging behavioral energies. And yeah, I'm excited. And in the meantime, this work doesn't stop. I continue with my coaching programs and my one on one work and doing the podcast. And we'll feel into if we eventually move it temporarily to every 2 weeks. We feel we flow, but I don't like to separate for too long because I love being on here. I love the feedback I receive from all of you beautiful, beautiful people who do circle back and share feedback with me in my DMs, and also the feedback by way of the reviews. It means so much to me because this is how we grow. It's these years, these exciting formative years of the podcast where it's still in its growth phase. So your feedback is so valuable. Mm, I'm so excited for this topic. And as I continue to also deepen on this topic in time and also in my master's program, it'll be part of the journey. And today we're talking about resentment towards the masculine from the feminine. And we feel that on both sides. And I'm excited to talk about this because there's often something so much deeper that lies within the gender divide and any sort of division we experience. And the reason I speak to it just on the feminine side, and I'll work to bridge it as I do, because there's always a bridge, is it's born from my own experience of carrying my own resentment towards my father. And I want to share about all the deeper layers that were layered within that, because that resentment that I projected onto him from my childhood, a big part of it is really a societal resentment towards society and conditioning, and towards my self. I'll say societal and conditioning around the feminine and the way our world in general, which it doesn't serve anyone. That's why I never like to blame men or women, because it's a systemic issue of we are in a, and the word patriarchy is so loaded. So I don't always like to use that word, because I never want to feel or have people misinterpret me as I'm coming across like damning men, because many use that term to damn men, and that's not what I'm here to do. And also Terry Real, who's an amazing marriage and family therapist, he talks about in his book, Us, psychological patriarchy. So it's a system that impacts both men and women. And so when I use this word patriarchy, it's a system that's been historically dominated by men, but it's a systemic issue, and we don't have to assign blame or judgment to certain men, to all the collective of men, even to the forefathers of men. We leave it as it's a system that we need to change. And in this system, we tend to have a favoring of active energies. Now, we call them masculine energies, or you can call them active energies. And this system favors distorted versions of active energies, because I say distorted because our values, when we think about what we represent as a society, we often think about control. We think about obsessing over the individual. Right? Capitalism makes us think only about ourselves. Who can be the next bigger, faster, stronger than the next? I'm going to take. I'm not looking out for the collective. It's all about me and taking resources for my benefit. And that energy, that's a distorted, we call it distorted masculine energy. You could call it distorted energy. It's in this world, because we often do use these terms, and it's shifting. It makes it easier to like pinpoint and understand the terms. And I also feel, masculine and feminine energies have been used since for a long time in uh, Taoist traditions, when we think about yin and yang, Shiva and Shakti. So these terms don't have to carry weight of men versus women, but it's understanding active and passive energies. And we think of it as the masculine and feminine, even in Kabbalah and um, Torah. They they go in the history when they talk about these masculine and feminine energies that we all have both of. So we don't have to run away from that term. But the challenge with that term is when we load it with gender. So we have these distorted masculine energies. So it's not assigned to men, it's assigned to everyone, that we value in society. So this control, this capitalism, this individualistic energy, repressing of our joy, repressing of pleasure, repressing of bliss. It's not just things the feminines experienced from the masculine, from the patriarchy, I shall say, but also men experience that. Many men can't show their emotions, show their pleasure, be in their pleasure. It's considered inappropriate. It's a violation of a boundary. Right? And for women, it's considered inappropriate in a different way. There's labeled as shamed as slut or a witch or demonized. So there's this repression of our pleasure, repression of our bliss, and there's also repression of our feminine energy, our receptive energies. So repression of, we don't value reflection and moving slowly and silence and pause. Why? Because you think about we're so focused on producing. Your values tied to your money. It's how much you're making. What are you producing? What do you actually have to show for yourself? What are your outward accomplishments? Not how do you feel in life? Do you feel fulfilled? Are you happy? Do you feel good about yourself? Do you love yourself? Are you acting in integrity? Do you ever hear people asking those kinds of questions when we evaluate success? And so we value things that are backwards. So oftentimes, mm, there's so much here. I'm like, I don't even know what direction to go in here. Let me stay on that thread. See if we can deepen that thread here. So we often value even the light over the dark, which is why we value positive emotions over anger, greed, resentment, jealousy. Now, it doesn't mean those are good emotions to feel. We don't assign a judgment, but we hide those. And that's why they live in the shadow, because we don't acknowledge them as a society, because we shame them out of people instead of saying it's healthy to feel jealousy. It's normal. It's healthy to be angry. It's healthy to feel greed. That's a human emotion. Greed can manifest and you're out to dinner and you really want that last sushi roll bite from the table, but you know that you've had enough, but you just want it, right? That can be a form of greed. Those aren't negative emotions. You want something for you. Even greed can manifest in I'm going to indulge for the sake of the self instead of serving the collective. So when we think about our um, addictive tendencies, that could be me going to the supermarket to grab a pint of ice cream and like eat it alone instead of and it's going to numb me out and ruin my night instead of taking that time to work on sharing my message with the world and writing. I don't want to shame you and feel like you to feel from this statement that doing that is anything wrong, but it can be a form of greed. So it's noticing that. What am I doing for the sake of the self or for service to a higher purpose, a higher path, giving my gifts to the world? And so for me, a lot of my resentment I carried to my father, I carried towards men, was actually collective resentment from having to repress my softness, my sensitivity, my emotionality. And I say it's not really about men because it's really, it's bigger, it's a system. And that lives in the soma of our bodies. This is where my Tantra training comes in when you hear me talk about this stuff, because this lives in our genes. It lives in our bodies, these traumas as feminine beings. The Salem witch trials, where medicine women and healers were burned at the stake because they questioned male authority, because they were intimidating, because they were powerful. So it causes fear of, I don't want to shine too bright. I don't want to take up too much space. I don't want to be too powerful and draw too much attention because that's dangerous. That energy lives in us. That energy also lives within men as well. And there are so much to unpack here, so I can't go to both. I will work on honing and focusing uh, the point for each. I don't have to say I always do that. I do as I feel. But yeah, there's a lot there for men. That will be another episode. We're going to plant that seed. And I'll also say, men, if you're listening, to the men here listening, drop me a line if you want to hear more about the masculine too. It always helps to gather that intel. So the Salem witch trials, we feel that in our soma. When you think about childcare and a lot of the onus being put on the feminine being in that domain, which masculine have their own challenges. Taught about around providership and having to be the one responsible for that, which brings a whole set of other pains and frustrations, expectations. But the caretaking on the feminine being. So what happens? That creates resentment because of this dynamic as a feminine being, where I'm dependent on you, masculine partner, for safety and sometimes financial security because I'm in this role of feeling disempowered and dependent. And that is from history of as we shifted from hunter-gatherer societies to agricultural societies, and women seen as private property and women relegated to the home life when the men went to work in the factories primarily. And there's been disempowerment of the feminine, women not being able to vote, their reproductive rights being controlled. And so it creates years of resentment that plays out in relational dynamics. It's even through terms when we think about how we speak to each other and these terms. You're just being crazy. You're just emotional. What do you want? Is that time of the month? You're a slut, right? A bitch, aggressive. All the words we use to shame the feminine causes resentment because it's women feeling like they can't be who they are and they can't express. I feel the need to remind everyone listening that this also aligns for men. And men have also a lot of ways that they're fit into a box that they're not able to be. Don't be weak. Grow a pair, get some balls, man up, that prevent them from being fully themselves as well. Be a man. Can't you hold space? Be the divine masculine. He's not a divine masculine. He's not conscious enough, whatever it might be. So this goes both ways here. And that's why I'm so passionate about this, because we make it personal when it's often not. It's systemic and it's deeper than that. And when we don't look at the bigger picture and we allow the personal and just this minuscule way you're responding, partner, to me, way I'm responding, that's conditioned in both of us, we are not actually making space for us to find that bridge. And there is a huge bridge that can be built. There's a huge opportunity for a bridge with a rainbow and a pot of gold in the middle, where both parties can sit there in bliss and pleasure and melt into divine oneness in the cosmos of energy merging into each other, that true divine union where we remember that we're both two wholes coming together who have been through the same things. Because as feminine beings, I was a man in another life. You were a man in another life. Man, you were a woman in another life. If, if my sister was listening, she'd be like, yo, you're getting way too, she'd be like, I'm going to hang up on you right now. You're getting way too spiritual for me over here. I'm an Aquarius. I'm living up in the stars here. But I got the Capricorn grounding, so I'm going to say I love both. And yeah, we're all one. We're all the same. So finding that bridge is essential. We all want divine union, depth of intimacy. Then it's understanding that we deserve it, and it's learning how to get there, and it's finding, where do we find that resonance? Because how can you have intimacy if you can't have resonance, if you don't understand each other at a deeper level, if you're not connecting over something? And the mutual connection is we're all the product of the system, and we all have different challenges that we experience. as a product of the system and roles that we're forced to play that we don't want to play anymore, and that we are going to change this program because this movie ain't a fun one. This one's like a messed up rated R NC-17 that's got inappropriate things happening, that's got rage that you don't want to look at, scary people that are in masks, robots. I don't even know. Mm. Where to take it from here? Where to take it? It can only go up. It can only go in the middle and just merge it here. So the point is, our resentment that we carry is often more, just like a trigger has so much more depth beneath the trigger. There's so much more than the tip of the iceberg beneath the iceberg. And so let's continue to deepen our understanding of history, continue to deepen our understanding of ourselves, continue to want to understand each other more deeply, to gain more perspective, and always continue to be that kind of seeker that wants more information to understand. Thank you, beautiful people, for tuning in to this week's episode of Divine Union. It's been such an absolute pleasure. I am beaming right now of joy from this episode. And I'm excited to see you next week. And until then, may all your unions be divine.